necessarily have met before or wouldn't have ordinarily heard of your brand. All right, so again, we'll wait for about 1 more minute and make sure that as many people as possible can get in here. We have, wow, this is big for me. But we got people from London. We got people from, what's up, Christy from London? What's up, Dennis from Bellingham? Diana from Fort Lauderdale. Eamon. I'm guessing it's the Eamon that I know. My clarified old school homie. And we got Marilyn from Orlando. We got Sabrina. Marilyn, welcome back. I think you were at the last session. So we're going to pick up where the last session was with Diana and John Gorman. They were talking about email marketing for small distilleries, wineries, and breweries. We're going to kind of pick that up and go to Plaid with that because there's a lot going on there, but there's an economy of scale to what you can do with your outreach if you are leveraging technology. And there's all kinds of fun stuff that I'm going to show you in the next 30, 35 minutes about how to do that. Use the robots. You cannot be everywhere at once. You cannot be in every market. And typically people have a lot more. There's Chuck. There's Chuck coming in strong. But we have a lot more distribution than we have ability to service that particular market. So that's what this whole thing is about. Okay, so we're looking for ideas for getting more engagement from buyers. All right, well, let's talk about discovering new buyers. You can't engage with them if they don't know who you are. So learning about tools and tricks in the US as I work remote from the distillery in the UK. At the end of the day, we haven't started yet, but at the end of the day, it's about creating awareness and developing a relationship virtually before you can actually create a physical relationship. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Sabrina and Christine and Christy and Diana for telling me what you're looking for. I'll go ahead and start. I'm going to go ahead and start the presentation now. I'm going to turn Chuck off. Chuck Mangione, everyone. Thank you so much for showing up to this webinar. All right, y'all. Let's go ahead and get started. My name is Jason Littrell, and I am a sales and marketing guy. I got into this more after during COVID than anything else, but I've always been interested in technology. And there's so many fun things that you can do. So I just want to make sure that you can see my screen. And let me just verify that. Can you all see my screen? The presentation. So I won't be able to see the comments while we're talking, but watch now, because normally I'm the moderator. So normally I just check to make sure that everything else is working just fine. All right, so you can see me now. I'm going to go ahead and mute my thing, and then I'm going to go ahead and make sure that you can see my screen. Unpause sharing. So you should be able to see my screen now in all of its glory. No, looks like that's not working. Okay, go try something else. Thanks for your patience, y'all. This is a brand new summit. We're just kind of kicking out all the kinks. Oh, looks like you can see my screen. Okay, so let's talk about cold prospecting. So this is the subtle art of being everywhere at once. The traditional route to market strategy for a brand is to say, this is my brand, you're welcome, and here are my 50 Halo accounts or 150 accounts that I can get to in this one particular market. In a place like New York, that is almost physically impossible. You basically have to be a brand owner to be that motivated to be able to hit that many accounts effectively. And the fortune is in the follow-up, and the relationship is key. So this is all brought to us by Who's My Rep. It's a website that I created to help improve the visibility of brand reps. It's the ultimate brand building. It's the ultimate directory of brand builders and supplier reps that we're building right now. So I'd love for you to take a minute, head to who'smyrep.net and sign up for a free account. And if you sign up right now, we'll use the promo code Summit 2022 for a free year of the Ambassador Plan, which improves your rankings in the search tiers. So when people look for a brand ambassador in Florida, if they're looking for a distributor rep in Florida or Nebraska or Alabama, then they'll find you. And not only that, but it'll also index on Google on search engines, which is very valuable. So so just take a minute. It's free. It's not going to cost you anything, and it will dramatically improve your visibility on search engines. All right, so cold prospecting is absolutely essential, but it typically sucks. So people have a very hard time with cold prospecting because it's so people hate cold prospecting, but it's basically what you do all day long, especially if you're working in a single market and you are working by yourself with very little supervision. So this doesn't typically apply to distributor reps because you have a lot of inroads already. But we've done things like, filing FOIA requests and finding out exactly who these accounts are, where new accounts are. And these techniques and strategies aren't typically available to the distributor reps, but they are very much available to the independents out there that are looking to beg, borrow, steal, claw their way into the market. So the traditional path to sales strategy involves just 50 to 70 accounts on focus. And that's typically at the expense of the 70 to 95% broader market of the addressable market. So if you're not cold calling, you're not building a sustainable brand, because there's a lot of people out there that will have never encountered your brand until you've actually emailed them or called them. And so here's how to make it suck a little bit less. My name is Jason Littrell. I started off as a bartender 20 years ago. My last shift was at Death & Company maybe 10 years ago at this point. Oh my God, I'm old. I became an event producer, hospitality consultant. I've worked at a bunch of different places. And throughout my career, I've kind of been inching towards solving unique and solvable problems, typically using technology, community building, and stuff like that. So that's why I created the Supplier Summit. That's why I created Who's My Rep, is because we are looking for the place in between buyers and sellers. So if you have any questions, please be sure to put them into the chat comments. I can see them on my phone now, and I will address them verbally. So please don't hesitate to shout out. I'm going to try to wrap this all up into 30 minutes, but I tend to talk fast when I get really excited. So don't hesitate to interrupt me or say, Jason, slow down. I don't normally drink coffee, but this is my second one. So let's roll. All right, the overview. So people hate cold calling and prospecting because it's hard and it's not really scalable. And of course, you get the door slammed in your face all the time. Getting the door slammed in your face actually doesn't really get old for me. So I don't mind shifting that energy into emails. But the object of the game is to get liquor to lips and have an in-person meeting, because very few deals are actually closed over an email or text messages. So I'd rather get the door slammed in my face in an email in my inbox than in my actual face. So there's a ton of amazing tools that we're going to go through that are going to do most of the work for you and automate the process so that you don't have to physically do all this work that is essential revenue generating work. But in our research, we found that about 80% of what a rep does can be automated in some way or another. But at the end of the day, it is a relationship business. So this is not intended to be a substitute for a traditional marketing strategy especially for an emerging brand. Also, cold prospecting is creative. So we're going to talk about can spam compliance and what you can and can't do, what you should and shouldn't do. But it's a creative opportunity to represent your brand creatively. And so we're going to go into stuff like that. If you were at the last seminar from John and Bianca Gorman, then you would have seen how they do email list building and help distilleries, breweries, and wineries with building their email list. Now that would be a warm list. That's an opt-in list. This is ice cold prospecting, which is it's just a whole different animal. But there's some similarities, and we're going to go in depth on some of the things that they didn't cover, like copywriting, subject line, stuff like that. So the main takeaways are you can automate the shit out of cold prospecting, which is rad. If you're not leveraging automation on any level, you're not playing in the same game that some other people are. So if you're here now talking about cold prospecting, especially automated cold prospecting, then that will give you a significant leg up on the competition, and you will see some ways that you can put your brand in front of people that wouldn't have ordinarily ever heard of them. So you should be cold prospecting all the time. The information is out there, and you can do this while you're doing the high revenue generating activities, which does include cold knocks on doors, sitting at bars, buying drinks, chatting at the bar managers, that kind of stuff. So the software works harder than you ever could. The software does not make mistakes. It doesn't get tired. It doesn't have vacation. Doesn't have PTO. It's not hungover from the wedding last night. So the cold outreach is oftentimes the first impression with a brand. So if you can't afford out-of-home marketing or digital marketing or other traditional media, aside from press, then this is typically going to be the first time that anybody has ever heard of your brand. And that's a really important point to make, because it levels the playing field. If you are, if you appear in their inbox and say, hey, what's up? My name is Eamon. I got this cool new stuff out that I got this cool new liqueur. I'd love for you to try it. Chances are, if they open up that email, they would have seen that before they saw anything that you did digitally. So it's highly, highly targeted, although it is broad at the same time. And of course, the fortune is in the follow-up. The follow-up can absolutely be automated. And I'm going to show you some fun new ways to do that using the software that I built. So traditional cold prospecting means cold calls, knocking on doors, warming up bar stools, getting the business card, emailing them once if you even do that, and then no follow-up. And so that whole time and expense and money expense is typically not a high value return. But also what we're doing a lot of the time is we're sitting in coffee shops doing, building spreadsheets for our boss for reporting about the work that we should be doing, but we can't actually do it because we're busy doing this report. So screw that. So the objectives that we're trying to accomplish here are we're trying to get somebody on the phone. We're trying to make a personal contact with somebody and have them build a relationship with them enough that they would be interested in meeting us. And oftentimes this is a much less lower friction opportunity than just knocking on doors all day long. That's just not a high revenue generating activity. So you can build rapport with an email. You can build rapport with a text message. Although we're going to be focusing on emails for this talk because emails are much less offensive if they're ice cold than sending somebody a text that you don't know. That's a much more personal form of communication. And we're going to talk about getting the no. What you want to do is you want to isolate the market into accounts that are potentially interested in what you're doing, because you don't want to waste your time with accounts that would never pick up your product. But it's kind of like carpet bombing or dragnet fishing. We are looking at addressing the broader market and giving them the option to say no. And no also doesn't mean no forever. It usually means not right now. So we're trying to qualify buyers. All right. So we're going to talk about a little. Here's some of the ethics of cold prospecting. So CAN spam compliance is a real law. You can get in real trouble. And you have to make sure that there are certain elements in your cold prospecting piece. You have to say who you are, what your address is, and you have to give them an unsubscribe option. So you have to make sure that they have the ability to not be reached out to again. I typically don't send more than 1 or 2 emails to a particular account, because I don't want to seem like I'm being pushy, and I don't want them to mark my emails as spam. What happens when they mark your email as spam is it ends up damaging your sender reputation, regardless of whether it's SendGrid or Mailgun or Gmail or Outlook. If people mark your emails as spam, then they're going to stop providing the service that they provide, which is sending your email. So you got to be very mindful of that. And we'll talk about cadence, tonality, and a couple other things in this talk as well. So persistence is rewarded typically, especially by entrepreneurial account owners. But pushiness is not. People don't like that. There's, you just do not want to be pushy. You do not want to be, you don't want to be like overly, you don't want to be, pitching them every couple of days or even every week. You want to give them plenty of time to remember who you are without them being tired of hearing from you. So you got to take no for an answer. When they say no, that's fine. If they say no, thank you, or if they say not right now, then that's definitely an opportunity to follow up with them in 6 months. That's where marketing automation comes in, because how are you supposed to remember that? But you can set up your system so that you are automatically following up with them, in 30 days, 90 days, whatever it is. So no thank you does not necessarily mean not right now. But remove me or unsubscribe or, stop emailing me, it means goodbye forever. And you have to honor that. Otherwise you will get yourself in trouble and you will not be doing your brand any service. So the wisdom of cold prospecting is, if you haven't failed, you haven't tried. If you've ever showed up to an account and you have got the door slammed in your face saying, no, thank you, I would never carry that. Or if somebody poked holes in your brand or whatever, then, that's this times 1,000. So if you're not ready for that negative feedback, you're not, you probably shouldn't be in this game. But what we're doing is we're just saying, we're just creating general opportunities for people to learn more about the product if they're interested. So this may sound like spammy and gross to some people. That's fine, but it 100% works. It 100% works. Email advertising email marketing is 4,700% more effective than traditional advertising. It costs next to nothing to do. and you can do it at scale in any number of markets concurrently. So the fortune is definitely in the follow-up. And if you're not following up, oftentimes people will read your email, they'll forget about it, they get busy. They're not as organized as you are. So it's okay to follow up once, maybe twice, and say, hey, just wanted to see if you got my last email. And then oftentimes they say, oh, wow, sorry, I just got super busy. It depends on when they read it. They may have something happening in their lives at that point, but it's okay to follow up as long as you're doing it tastefully and carefully. So once somebody comes in and says, yes, I'm interested, you got to get your ass there. You have to be there. You have to set an appointment and show up to that appointment and nurture them into that appointment, because they will forget about you in the same 5 minutes, and you will have the same level of awareness 5 minutes before when they didn't know who you were. So you got to get there when they say I'm interested. All right, the strategy. All right, cold prospecting is absolutely a contact sport. The more people you contact, the more likely you are to make a deal. A good conversion rate on cold prospecting campaigns is like around 4 to 5%. So you got to, that means for every 100 people that you reach, then 4 of them are going to say, cool, I might be interested. Cool. So you got to track your different pipeline stages in your CRM. I strongly recommend a CRM. There are so many cool things that are out there. I'm going to show you the one that I built, but there are a million other CRMs out there that might be more appropriate for a business. Although I built mine specifically for suppliers, and so you need to track different elements of the sale, like ice cold. Did you email them? Did they open up the email? Are they not right now? Did they say DND, which means do not disturb? That means no forever. Are they interested? As in, did they reply? But you just need to make an appointment. And then the deal is done. So that's how you track the metrics of whether your campaign is working. What can be measured can be managed. And if you're not managing it, managing your expensive human capital, then you might just be wasting your time. So time is of the essence. Get there when they're hot. So the anatomy of a cold prospecting email or message, we're going to talk about LinkedIn a little bit too, but is tonality, cadence, and copy. So tonality is how are you actually speaking to people? How are you representing your brand? Are you friendly? Are you serious? Are you corporate? Or are you irreverent? All these things can come through with good, clever copywriting. Cadence. How much are you emailing people? Are you emailing them too much? Are you bothering them? Is that, to me, that sounds like very, very irritating. So David, we're going to talk about some tools in a couple minutes. So copywriting, are you getting what's important to your prospects? Like, are you getting the important information? And you might be surprised what the actual important information is. I use cold prospecting to introduce myself. I typically talk a lot about, I ask questions, but the brand can only be discovered if they know, like, and trust me. So I typically focus on a lot about like storytelling and showing people why they should be interested in what I have. All right. So the tools and tactics of prospecting we have the D7 lead finder. These are some of the tools that I use. There are other variations of these tools everywhere, but I use D7 lead finder. I use Find That Lead and Leads Gorilla. This is tantamount to purchasing a list, but you can have a little bit more targeting, and it's much cheaper to use these services than it is to buy a list that is, of people that you're for sure not interested. But clearout.io is how I clean the list. You have to make sure that all the emails work, that they are actually current and active emails. Otherwise, you're going to be sending a bunch of things that are going to bounce, and that will seriously damage your sender rating. And so you'll have a difficult time recovering from that. You may have to set up a new domain. So clean your list and make sure that it's current and tidy. That way you don't have a lot of bounces. All right. So, and then Walaxy is a fun tool that I got on AppSumo. I actually got all these tools on AppSumo except for D7. But I got Walaxy, and that is a LinkedIn prospecting tool. And what it does is it runs through a series of events that like, it's called a campaign that says, like, visits their profile and then asks for a connection request, and then it sends them a message. And if they didn't respond to the message, then it does this. If they do respond to the message, then it does that. Blah 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 blah. And then Mail Meteor, which is a tool I use for that connects with my Gmail account, that actually does drip campaigns through my Gmail account. So on any given day, I'll be sending around 300 emails a day, that are personalized, that mention the brand. We're going to talk about this in just a second. But if you haven't checked out AppSumo, it's probably my favorite website. I troll it every single day. It's appsumo.com. I'll put it in the chat at the end. So copywriting. So you don't just say, You don't just say, hey, what's up, buy my brand. Copywriting is extremely important, and it takes a lot of testing. You have to find out what works, because if you're not constantly poking and prodding and finding out what copywriting is working, what people are responding to, then you're potentially just sending out emails that are ultimately going to go to spam, which are ultimately going to damage your sender reputation and not impress the buyer at all. So if your subject line sucks, they're not going to open up the email. I would recommend spending about 50% of your time crafting the subject line, and then 50% of your time crafting the email. If the body sucks, they're not going to do anything. So if they don't like what's in the body, then they're not going to do anything. So I don't put any links in my emails. I don't even put any links in my signature line. One, because it damages sender reputation. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to invoke some sort of a response, like either no thank you, or yes, I'm interested, or some variation of those two things. But we're trying to invoke a response, like hit the reply button and say, sure, just anything. And you have to ask them to do that typically. So some people, you will make them mad. They will mark it as spam. It'll mess up your sender reputation and get you banned. But if you are doing something, if you're sending emails that provide some sort of a value, whether it's in the form of storytelling, then you don't have to worry about this. So the way that we track whether a subject line sucks is by opens. And then the way we track whether the body is good is by responses. And I'll show you a little bit of that in a second. So bad copywriting is putting all caps and emojis in the subject line. That's like the internet version of shouting. And nobody wants to be shouted at. So the email is about you. So the email is all about you or the brand. Although I would recommend that you make it a little bit about you. I'm sorry, it has to be about the client first. And then but the client can be drawn in by talking a little about something that may resonate with them that may resonate with them and give them a reason to engage. We're going to talk about WeFM in a second. It's short for what's in it for me. And so if you put in salesy and pushy copywriting, like for a limited time only or call now, it's just barf. It's not good copywriting, and it really just kind of pisses people off, and they can see it from a mile away. Good copywriting is what's in it for me. Is like you're saying like some sort of a demonstrable value on what your brand or service does. And again, this is for suppliers. This is not for buyers. This is not for accounts. But what you want to do is you want to say, hey, listen, do you have a clarified liqueur on your back bar? What we're talk about how you're benefiting that account. So if you can identify one of their pains or something that they don't know, then you may have an advantage, and they may be more likely to say, okay, well, cool. Well, for $30, if I can solve this pain, I'll pick up a bottle. Sure. Also you have to be mindful and respectful and empathetic of their time. So I make my emails really short, sometimes one sentence. So if you don't respect their inbox bandwidth, why would they invite you into their home? And that's exactly what you're looking for. You're looking for an invitation into their home. Remember, they've spent their life savings. They've spent all of their waking moments. They spend time away from their children to build this bar. And who are you to invade that? So there has to be some sort of a connection there with what you're doing. And so I like to keep them very, very short. I love storytelling. Storytelling is ingrained in our DNA. That's from generations and eons of our species. We've been telling stories. And so people buy stories, and people buy from people, not from brands. And so if you have a story that resonates and aligns with their values, then you are much more likely to make a meaningful connection enough to be able to present the opportunity to buy one of your brands, but not before. They can't buy anything from people that they don't know, like, and trust. And it has to be all three. So if you connect your story with the conversation that's happening in your prospects' minds, then you are far, far, far ahead of the game. And again, you can do this, 1,000 a day. So an example of good copywriting. So this is a client this is a client of mine called Ron Palante. And so here is a great email that they crafted. I didn't do this. They crafted this, and it's honest, it's direct, and it says, and it goes very strictly to the point. Hi, I'm Eddie. A founder of a new rum called Palante. So that's a little bit me-y. So it's a premium artisanal rum in the Cuban tradition, and we just launched. So I love that we just launched, as in it's new. Like, not a lot of people know about this. We're getting you in on the ground level. My dad was a chemical engineer in Cuba at Havana Club in the 1980s, and Palante honors that tradition while adding a modern twist. So a little bit of brand messaging, but not so much that it's irritating. Let's see, are people trying to get in here? Sorry, let me just check it in here real quick. I'm solo here, y'all, so it's bear with me here. So, Eamon, you want to? All right, so let's see here. So I love this kind of copywriting because it shares a little bit about the brand. It gives you a little bit of understanding. What's your availability? So you're not saying I'll be there. You're saying what's your availability? So you're empathetic of their time and you don't understand the demands of the time. And I'd love to come and share the run with you. So this is a little bit more centered on the sender rather than the buyer. But this is a good example, and we've had great response from this. So what we've seen work is tonality, cadence, and copy. So friendly. The way I like to position this when I'm explaining to people what we do for cold prospecting is I like to say, like, we're it's basically like you're a stranger introducing yourself to another person on the street in a small town. And you wouldn't say, "Hey, what's up? Let's get married." You'd say, "Hey, what's up? I'd love to introduce myself. Maybe we'll have a cup of coffee, and have a conversation. I'll meet your parents before we try to get married." Cadence is the sequence in between, is the space in between communications. So you don't want to be so close that they don't remember that you're irritating, but you don't want to be so far away that they forgot the first email. So I like about 2 weeks or about 10 business days. We actually do typically odd numbers like 9 or 11 business days because we don't send emails on weekends. So we know more than 3 emails in sequence. And then typically the third email is like, "Do you want us to stop trying?" And what that is typically people will open up the email and they will see that you're being persistent but not pushy. And then you'll say, "I value your time. I don't want to bother you. Do you want me to stop trying?" And this is typically a strong call to action for people to say, "Sure, no, keep trying. I'm just busy. I'm sorry. I do want to make an appointment with you. It's just O&D. Everybody's losing their minds. Go ahead and keep trying." And they'll give you permission to continue working with them. And remember, like we're talking about 5 people out of 100 are going to do this. The rest of them are either not going to see it, or they're going to see it and forget about it, or they're going to opt out, or they're going to get upset, whatever. So copywriting, short, mega short. Remember, like if you are not empathetic to the needs of your buyer, then you are not going to be invited into their home. So indicate that you're close by and that you're an important and that they are an important account to you. They don't know that you're sending these 1,000 at a time. People like people who hustle, and they respond well, in my experience, to an ambitious go-getter with a story to tell, but not so intense that they're weird. Does that make sense? Just let me know in the chat, guys, because I can't see what you're doing live, but let me know in the chat if I'm talking too fast. Again, I get really excited, and there's so much more I want to share with you right now. We only have about 5 more minutes. Okay, so the action plan. Decide, is this something that you need to be good at, or hire me to do it for you? So you can decide that I want to be good at this. I'm going to show you some tools in a second. So you'd be like, do I want to be good at cold prospecting? I think that the answer is yes. Hopefully I've made the case that a 5% conversion is typical for us. And that means 5 new points of distribution every month. So if you're not enjoying that kind of success, then maybe your strategy needs some help, and maybe you can give me a call and I can work with you on it. So get the software and learn how to use it. I'm going to show you the software in a second. Scrape the lists. This is called data scraping because the information is actually out there. And there's pieces of software that use like JavaScript to get emails from places like Yelp, LinkedIn, Google My Business, Facebook groups, and there's the data is out there. All you have to do is scrape it. So turn off your phone for a day and set up the automations, because what you can do is you can turn them on, turn them off, and then in a month later you say, like, is this working? Is this not working? And then you just kind of tweak the copywriting, the subject lines, until you find something that really works. But about 5% is a good benchmark for conversions. So then you turn on the automations and closely monitor the results. It's just literally a matter of checking once in the first week just to see how things are going. So if you need to, you have to adjust the tonality, cadence, copywriting to optimize the results. Again, if they're not opening up your emails, then your subject line sucks. If they're opening up the emails but not converting, then your body sucks. That's not body shaming. I'm talking about the body of an email. The number one rule is don't piss off your prospects. So if you have to do a longer than comfortable cadence in between emails, do it. And then you can kind of narrow it down to shorter and shorter until you find something that really works, that shortens the sales cycle a little bit. So main takeaways, or you can automate the shit out of cold prospecting. Cold prospecting can and should happen while you're doing other high value activities. Software works harder than you ever could. Cold outreach is often the first impression with a brand, and the fortune is in the follow-up. So let's talk about some tools real quick. I want to show you some stuff that I use. So this first one is called D7 Lead Finder. It's D7 Lead Finder right here. I'm not an affiliate of any of these brands except for the software that I built, which I'm going to show you in a little bit. And this one will scrape a whole list based on the job title, on account type. So I use this for restaurants and bars. I typically get pretty granular, and go for smaller markets because smaller markets don't typically get pitched very often. So D7 is good. Is a good list. Is a good way to get a good solid list. I clean out the list with clearout.io. So this is I've verified 76,000 emails across the country. I've eliminated 11% of them as bounces, and so it just shows you these are the various lists that I've cleaned over the years. So clean New York State. So this is every account in New York State. This is 3,700 accounts, and that means that that's down from I forget how many. But it's 65% of them were actually valid as in current businesses, which is scary, I know. But you can do this for any market in the United States as long as you clean the list. So I find liquor stores in Bayonne, restaurants and wherever this is, and you can, the data is out there. If you want to get more granular with your search, I use a tool called Leads Gorilla, and this does Facebook groups and Google My Business. And all that data is there as well. You just have to have the right piece of software to get through it. So it's called Leads Gorilla. So this is what I use for once I have large lists that are clean, then I put them into a campaign here. So I'm working with a company that helps bars and restaurants find ERC grants. And let's see here. So this is how I promoted the summit in the beginning. So I sent 1,800 emails to my email list. 60.5% of them opened up the email. And then 90 of them clicked, 5% conversion rate right here. Nobody unsubscribed, which is great. And so it just helps you. So what this does is I set it to send every 60 seconds. And it sends a maximum of 500 emails a day. I have a business Gmail account, so I can send up to 2,000. You don't want to push it, but you can also have multiple campaigns running concurrently for different audiences. And it just tells you who the accounts are, what they did. And then this is the tracking code that tells you whether they opened it or not, and that's how you do that. So you can put in templates, put in a bunch of contacts, and this is a great way to just send, say, 300 emails a day without breaking a sweat. All right, so Walaxy is a very fun tool. It's a combination of email marketing and LinkedIn messaging. And what I do is I train it to do a specific series of events. So I'll put in these are all the prospects that I look for based on job title. So I'm looking for people, not businesses here. And this is what I tell it to do. So if we're not connected on LinkedIn, then I'll visit their account and then I'll send them an invitation. If we eventually connect, then I'll wait a day and then I'll send them a message that looks a little something like this. Hey, what's up? Following up. Have you heard of the ERC grants going out? And then, at any time people can say, no, thank you, I'm not interested, and the sequence stops. So 5 days later, we'll wait. And then we'll say, hey, just want to see, make sure you got my next message. And we'll wait another 5 days, which is 5 business days. And then we'll see if they saw it, then they get this message. If they didn't see it, they get this message. So it goes on and on and on until we get some sort of desired result. And so again, we're talking about the cadence is these messages are completely different than emails that we send. But if we do not connect on LinkedIn, then if there are emails published on LinkedIn, then we scrape that. And then we send them an email. So we start taking them off of the channel. Now, the whole point of this, the part that I didn't even mention, oops, can you guys not see my screen? Oh, rat farts. Okay. Looks like I was not sharing my screen. So I'll blaze through these real quick one more time. Sorry about that, y'all. Oh, did you guys see all that? Did you guys see me go through Walaxy? You could see. Okay, thank you, Diana. All right, so yeah, so that's Walaxy. Really fun stuff. I provide this as a service for my clients. It helps you get more three-dimensional with your cold outreach. This is a tool that I created called JLOS, Jason Littrell Operating System. I know the vanity is real, but what we do is we upload the clean list from ClearOut, and then we put them into a pipeline. So the first thing we do is we add this tag to the client, and then it initiates this sequence of events. So we'll notate the account, and then we'll create an opportunity in a sales pipeline, and then we'll assign it to a user so that everything is coming from the same person. And then we'll add a contact tag so we can isolate them later. Then we'll send them an intro email that says something like this. Hey there, I'm Jason from Focus Beverage or Brand X here. I'm your rep. Do you keep office hours for tasting? It's literally this short. This one converts pretty well. Could do better. And then we go on and we just go on and on and on. Now, we use this typically for warmer contacts, but it goes forever. I mean, we literally have messaging and programming for 6 months. So this is a cold start. If they open up the email, then the cadence gets adjusted, the timing gets adjusted, the copyright changes slightly, and there's a little bit more urgency because we know that they know that we exist. And so we start talking to them quite a bit differently. And at any point, they can say no, thank you. At any point, if they respond, the sequence stops. And if they say no, thank you, then they automatically get put into another workflow that like we have a reply handler right here that goes through a couple different scenarios on what they could reply with. So if they say not right now, so like any of these phrases that say not interested, not right now, no, thank you. Those are all not right now. So they get moved into a different stage of the pipeline, and we start communicating with them quite differently with a dramatically different cadence. So that's kind of what I got for you as far as cold prospecting is concerned. But generally speaking, if you're not keeping track of of how many opportunities you have and what the value of that is, what you can do is with the value of your pipeline and how many you're converting, you can project cash flow. Which is why I recommend, and if you can project your cash flow, you can make a compelling case. You can make a compelling case for investment. So that's all I got for you today. I hope to see you guys at the next session. I hope to see you all at the next session, which is with Rev Ciancio. He's going to talk about how to beat the online ordering platforms at their own game. I would love to get your feedback on this presentation on the Supplier Summit. Was it easy? Was it interesting? Are we missing anything? What do we suck at? What are we great at? Please help me understand. Thank you so much for all your engagement in the chat. I love this stuff. I'm so glad that you could see what I obsess over on a day-to-day basis. So if you need any help with your brands, I'm obsessed with the success of mission-driven hospitality and spirits brands. And we do some very fun stuff to get you in front of people that you may or may not have ordinarily been in front of. So thank you so much, y'all. I really appreciate it. And I'll follow up with an email, of course. And I look forward to seeing and speaking with you soon. Thank you. I wish I had time for questions, y'all, but I don't. Sorry.